For months in the summer of 1560, the one person who had spent 13 years calming the most volatile temper in Russia grew slowly, mysteriously sicker. Then she died. And the man she left behind would spend the rest of his life and reshape an entire country based on what he believed had actually killed her. By 1560, Ivan the Terrible had spent 13 years as a genuinely effective, reforming czar, the ruler we met in part 1 of this series. Within about 5 years of this moment, that same man would build one of history's most feared, secret police states. What actually happened in between? Was it one specific event, or something that had simply been waiting to surface? For once, the historical record gives us an unusually direct piece of physical evidence to work with. Here's what's documented. Ivan's wife, Anastasia Romanovna, had been tsaritsa for 13 years, and by most contemporary accounts, she was the one steadying influence on her husband's famously volatile temper. In the summer of 1560, she fell seriously ill. Contemporary accounts describe weeks of physical decline, fevers, weakness, a woman once known for warmth and steadiness growing gradually unable to leave her chambers. Ivan reportedly stayed close by her bedside for much of it, watching a partnership that had lasted since he was 16 years old slip away in slow motion. After months of this decline, she died on August 7th. Ivan's reaction was immediate and extreme. He became convinced, without any formal proof at the time, that she had been poisoned by the boyars, the same noble class that had tormented him as a child. For over 4 centuries, that accusation was treated as grief-driven paranoia, impossible to confirm one way or the other. Then in the 1990s and again in the early 2000s, scientists exhumed Anastasia's remains and ran forensic analysis on her preserved hair and bones. Using neutron activation analysis, published in a peer-reviewed physics journal, researchers confirmed extremely high concentrations of mercury in her remains, more than 10 times a normal level. Here's where honest sources genuinely diverge. Some researchers treat this as strong evidence Ivan was right all along, that his wife really was poisoned. Others point out that mercury compounds were a common medical treatment in the 16th century, and that several other royal remains from the same era show similarly elevated levels, meaning her death could just as easily have come from the medicine meant to treat her illness, rather than a deliberate murder at all. Even now, with real physical evidence in hand, the case remains scientifically suggestive, but not conclusively solved. Whatever the true cause, Ivan's response was total. He had a number of boyars tortured and executed on suspicion alone, without formal proof of any conspiracy. His 2 closest advisors from the reform years, Sylvester and Alexei Adashev, fell from favor and were exiled. The chosen council that had run Russia's most successful decade simply ceased to exist. 4 years later, in April of 1564, one of Ivan's own most trusted military commanders, Prince Andrei Kurbsky, defected to Lithuania, and soon after, led an enemy army against Russian territory. Kurbsky then began writing Ivan a series of extraordinary letters, accusing him directly of tyranny and betraying the principles of just rule. Ivan wrote back at enormous length, rambling, furious, quoting scripture, mocking Kurbsky's arguments line by line, and defending his right to absolute, unlimited power over his own subjects. In one particularly striking passage, he described his authority in stark terms, that he was free to reward his own subjects, and equally free to put them to death, answerable to no one but God. Of Kleider's defection itself, Ivan wrote that he had gone over to Russia's enemies traitorously, like a dog, an image that would resurface soon after in a much darker form. Here, too, honest scholarship complicates the popular story. Some historians treat this correspondence as one of the most important surviving windows into Ivan's own mind. Others, following an influential 1971 academic argument, have seriously questioned whether the letters are even authentic, suggesting they may have been composed, or at least heavily altered, decades after the fact. That debate over their authenticity continues among specialists today. What's undisputed is what happened next. On December 3, 1564, Ivan left Moscow, taking his family, his personal treasury, and an unusually large armed escort with him. He didn't explain where he was going. For a full month, Moscow heard nothing. Then, from a fortified hunting lodge called Alexandrovskaya Sloboda, Ivan sent back 2 letters, one to the church, one to the boyars, announcing his abdication, blaming their treason and corruption for making it impossible to rule. The reaction in Moscow was panic. Delegations of nobles and clergy traveled to the Sloboda, begging their czar to return. Ivan agreed, but only on 2 conditions. First, the unrestricted right to punish traitors however he saw fit, without the church's traditional power to intervene on the condemned's behalf. Second, the creation of a new personal domain, entirely separate from the rest of the country, that would answer to him alone. He called it the Oprichnina, from an old word simply meaning apart. Ivan personally selected the men who would enforce it, a corps of loyal enforcers who came to be called the Oprichniki, dressed in black, riding with a dog's head and a broom tied to their saddles, symbols, according to period accounts, of hunting down the Tsar's enemies and sweeping treason from the land. The dog imagery wasn't incidental. It was the same word Ivan had used for Kurbsky himself. So Russia's most feared institution wasn't born from a single act of madness. It was built, deliberately, over 4 years, out of a wife's disputed death, a trusted friend's betrayal, and a staged abdication that forced an entire country to beg its ruler to come back on his own terms. Whether Ivan genuinely believed every threat he described, or was simply using grief and betrayal to justify power he'd wanted all along, is a question historians still can't fully answer. What's certain is what came next: a personal state within a state, answerable to no one, and a secret police force about to carry out one of the deadliest massacres in Russian history. It's worth noticing what's actually missing from this story so far. No single dramatic villain, no single moment of madness anyone can point to and say, "There, that's when it happened." Just a widower's grief, a friend's betrayal, and 4 years of small, deliberate steps that each looked, on their own, like something close to reasonable.